Hello, I'm Dougie Brimson and welcome to Madder Maxx. This is what we've got coming up for you on the show this week. We take a look at the sport of trials driving. I'll be meeting a hill climber who's driving himself to the limit, and Sarah will be offshore taking a look at a very special water speed record. As most people will be aware, the majority of people who buy vehicles like this never put them through anything more challenging than a trip to school or the local supermarket. But this week we've come to look at the flip side of that, a sport where people put their four-wheel drive wagons through the limits of their capability and often beyond. Welcome to the world of off-road trials. There are many different classes of off-road trialling, but basically they fall into two groups. The first is for standard production vehicles, and the second is a modified class, machines built for one purpose and one purpose only. And as so often on Madder Maxx, in the modified class, anything goes. A trial consists of 8 or more sections through various types of terrain. Competitors have to steer their car through a series of marked cones, requiring a high level of car control from the driver. Stopping on the course or touching the markers pick up penalty points. The driver who completes all the sections with the least penalty points is the winner. Let's find out a bit more about the sport. Jenny, why on earth are you involved in this sport?
I don't know. My dad started doing it about 10 years ago, and when I was little I used to come and passenger him, and then as I passed my driving test I started doing it myself.
So how long have you been actually involved in participating?
Well, as I said, I've been passengering since I was 14, because you have to be 14 to passenger. Passed my test at 17, so been driving for 4 years.
And how successful have you been during that time?
I think last year came 3rd overall in the championship, so quite good.
There's no separate championship for ladies?
No.
Good. That's the way it should be,
only me.
really. There's only you.
So I'd win it, wouldn't I?
Oh, that's the best way to be. So, one of the things, I mean, looking at the cars, they're very substantially built.
Yeah.
And someone was explaining to me this morning that if you roll over, it doesn't really matter because you're okay.
No, I mean, you've got your full harness on.
Yeah.
The roll cage, it's not going to move, so.
And the speeds are quite slow, really, as well.
Yeah.
So is it, it is an especially safe sport?
Yeah.
And
the most you do is get muddy.
One of the interesting things about this sport in particular I've noticed this morning is that there is a competitive edge to it all, but everybody is kind of not competitive. They just want people to do well. And I think one of the things, someone said it to me earlier, it's the fact that sooner or later everybody is going to mess up, everybody's going to get stuck.
Yeah.
And so they've got to be dragged out. Is that pretty much how it sums up one of the attractions of the sport?
There's a few people that are just here to win, but most people, they just come to have a laugh.
It's not a sport for prima donnas, is it?
No.
And it's certainly not a sport for checkbook racers, I think.
No.
Is that the beauty of it?
Yeah, it's it can be expensive if you want it to be, but I mean, we don't spend much on this, really.
Well, speaking of this, underneath all this mud, can you give
Somewhere
us a brief explanation of what it actually started out as?
Well, used to be a Series 1 Land Rover, chopped all the body down, the wings, all around the back, and he's altered the engine. My dad's altered the engine slightly. He's changed it to coil sprung, changed all the back suspension as well.
Because you need huge amounts of suspension travel.
Yeah. There's a couple still on leaf springs, but doesn't get up the hills as well. And we've got these tyres on, which we wouldn't have on the road. So.
Apart from that, it's pretty much standard.
Yeah.
And in terms of cost, how cheaply could someone get started in competing?
The tyres can be quite expensive, but apart from that, it's only entrance fees, which is £12 a day.
And fuel?
The fuel, this one doesn't use much at all, really. Some of the V8s put quite a bit of fuel away, but this petrol is not too bad.
Let's see some of these machines in action. So how did it go?
Not too good. I got stuck a few times in all the mud. Not beating my dad either. So.
Bad. Is that a bad thing, not beating your dad?
Yeah, because normally I do. So.
Well, I was watching up. We've been watching all the stuff this morning, and a lot of people are getting stuck up there because it's very wet and very muddy. Is that the norm?
No. Normally, perhaps just pull one person out in the whole day. But it's very. When we laid out on Friday, it was quite dry, and then today it's rained since, so it's very muddy up there.
So, what are your plans this afternoon? Just concentrate more on what you're doing as opposed to what everybody else does.
Yeah. Hopefully, clear a few more sections, and.
Be your dad.
Be my dad.
Well, I'll let you get on and do what you've got to do. And good
Okay.
luck for this afternoon.
Thank you.
It's been quite an interesting day here because although it's a competitive event, the people don't actually seem to be that competitive. All they really want to do is have a laugh and enjoy themselves. But they also want everybody else to enjoy themselves, which is the most important thing of all. So next time you're driving along and you see someone in a shiny 4x4, someone somewhere is putting that car to proper use. Join us in part 2 as I pursue a hill climber trying to prove his mettle, and Sarah gets a rush on the waves of a very special water speed record attempt.
Now, if you asked me to take out my powerboat blindfolded, I'd think you were mad. But the guy we're going to meet today is called Steve Cunningham. Now, Steve's blind and he's just about to attempt the world blind water speed record. Meet Steve Cunningham. This isn't Steve's first world record attempt. Last year, he took a Dodge Viper and the world blind speed land record with an average speed of 146.56 miles an hour. But hitting 176 miles an hour on the way. Now, Steve, you've already set a record on land. First, can you just tell me a little bit about that? What was the whole idea behind it?
It was for charity, basically. We needed a car, we needed something that was a little bit different. The Dodge Viper provided us with that platform. We raised funds, increased the awareness campaign of what people with disabilities can do, and set a new world record.
Now, for me that races boats, I mean, that is the most unpredictable surface in the world. The sea is unpredictable. So how do you feel about doing this, and what's your training like?
The training programme is far harder this year. It took 12-15 months of practice. It wasn't something that you would just do willy-nilly, jump into a car and away you go, because you've got to learn. Every car handle's different, and you've got to have the ability to convert the verbal instruction that you're given into driving ability. The car obviously is a wheel at each corner and the surface doesn't change. With the boat, the surface, i.e. the sea, changes every second. 1 minute you can be off a full 5-foot wave, the next minute you can be calm for 15-20 seconds. You've got to have that ability to be able to read what the boat's doing, listen to your instruction, and make sure that the boat is parallel at all times, because sometimes, as you know, Sarah, you come up a wave and you're not level. Well, if you correct the wrong way, you've got a major problem.
What about the speed? Because they're not slow boats, and for people that don't actually know, say you're doing 70 miles an hour on water, it's the equivalent of doing 140 to 200 on land. So how do you feel about the speed?
You need to recognise that there is a danger there, and you need to have that confidence to be able to control the speed. You've got to be able to be mindful of the fact that what the boat is telling you, and you need to be able to react to what the boat's telling you. For me to set a record that is held by a sighted person, I think it really would put people who can't see on the map, and hopefully would give them confidence to take that into other areas.
Well, Steve, I wish you all the best luck. To actually do that is incredible, because as I say, it is the most unpredictable surface in the world. So I wish you all the best. Thank you. The boat that Steve will be driving, the revolutionary V24 offshore powerboat nicknamed the Bat Boat, is powered by a V8 Volvo Penta engine and can travel up to speeds of 75 to 80 miles an hour. The boat is usually raced by professional powerboat racer Mike Mantle, and as each of these Bat boats costs around a lot of money, Mike will want to get his boat back in one piece. It's obviously a bit different being a teacher, and now you're actually teaching someone that's blind. How difficult is that?
I think the most difficult thing was to just try and visualise what he would be feeling rather than obviously not seeing, and try and tell him everything that might frighten him or surprise him, but don't tell him everything that we see, because if you gave him a continuous input, as we see when we're sighted and driving, there wouldn't be enough words. So I just let him learn slowly and informed him when there's going to be a big bang or a big noise or a swerve. He's a natural driver, which is a huge advantage, and after he got familiar with the boat, I then put him into the driving seat, and I didn't just tell him too much. I just said, just drive left and right and learn the boat, and the first time we hit a few waves, he naturally worked the throttle, and so I didn't have to tell him.
Now, most people would consider blindness a disability, but Steve continues to show us the capabilities of the blind. And if these records were going on pure determination alone, then Steve would have achieved this one a long time ago.
During this series, we'll meet lots of very interesting and successful motorsport competitors. But if you've competed in the same sport for over 20 years and remained at the pinnacle of that sport, then you have to be worth talking to. So today we meet David Grace, one of Britain's most successful hill climbers. The rules are simple. Almost any car can enter, from a production Porsche to an ex-Formula One car. The drivers are timed between 2 points, one at the bottom of the hill and one at the top. Meet David Grace, hill climb racer.
I started 20 years ago in a very relatively cheap car, 50 quid I think the engine cost, and we spent about £500 on the chassis. And I've just been working at it. I was very successful in that, and we made it go quicker, and I sold it and got a better car, and slowly but surely you work yourself up to the ultimate hill climb car.
What is it about hill climbing that keeps you so fascinated?
I think, the opportunity to drive something like this. I mean, this is a 600 horsepower, 500 kilogram racing car. It would out-drag a Formula One car off the line at Silverstone easy. They'd catch us eventually. So there's the opportunity to do that, which would be very expensive to do if you went circuit racing. The other thing is it's about me and my other competitors, but they don't T-bone me and knock me off into the first corner. If they beat me, they beat me because they drive better than I do. I've won the Hill Climb Championship 4 times, and I'm going for my 5th this year, so I'm trying to win it for a 5th time. I held records at various hills, outright hill records at various hills in the country. I've won, I can't remember the number of actual runoffs I've won, but it must be in the 40s, something like that. You really get nervous before you race the car, and that's when you think, why aren't I at home mowing the lawn? But when you win, and you win with a record time, and you see the reaction of the crowd, and you know that you've done a really good job, that's what makes you do it. It's very, very disciplined, winning or losing by 100th of a second. We've learned, if you like, to be disciplined. You can't afford to run wide by 5 feet because you're in the bank. You can't let the tail flap all over the place. You can't run after your braking area. It's got to be really precise. The quick runs are the ones that look, well, it didn't look very fast. It was very smooth. And you look at the clock and it's all happened. Well, it has to be light, so it weighs 510 kilograms. I think a Formula One car fully loaded is over 600 kilograms, so it has to be light. It has relatively small brakes because you've got a steep slope you're going up, so Isaac Newton slows you down. You've only got 4 speeds. First gear today is 89 miles an hour. Second gear is 110. Third gear is 135. So you've only used those 3 gears. Little fuel tank in here, it's only 2-gallon fuel tank, that's all we need. No oil cooler, very small radiators, we've only got to keep it cool for 30 seconds. Huge sticky rear tyres, really grippy. It wouldn't last a lap of Brands Hatch or a lap of Silverstone, they'd be wiped out. And a very, very strong transmission. The crown wheel and pinion is huge because it takes so much force with these big sticky tyres. And a lot of wing, the other thing. You could come here with a road-going Caterham or a Mallock or a small second-hand racing car which you might buy for £3,000 or £4,000, put some decent tyres on it, do a few of the Midland rounds, and it wouldn't cost you perhaps more than £1,500, £2,000 a year to run them if you looked after it. At the other extreme, if you wanted to go and buy this car, it would cost you £70,000 or £80,000 minimum. The engine itself's worth between £25,000 and £30,000 if you could find one. And if you got somebody else to maintain it, then it would cost a lot of money. You'd probably be running a £30,000 a year budget, which isn't a lot when you think of what it costs to go circuit racing.
But in effect, that's a lot of money to spend as little time in the car as possible.
It is, but then why do people go and do 100 metres relay race or 100 metres sprint race or something like that as opposed to a marathon? Everybody has their own type of sport, and this is the one that seem to be quite good at doing.
Let's see David and his car in action. At the end of the day, let's find out whether the hill was cruel or kind to David and his times. Right, David, we just watched the morning's runoffs, and unfortunately it didn't all go according to plan.
No, not quite. A couple of tenths off from a win. That's what happens in hill climbing. You can lose or win by 100ths of a second. And it had been raining earlier on, which had made the conditions a little bit iffy.
Does that? I mean, you must know this hill like the back of your hand. Do you think there's any way you can pick it up this afternoon?
Oh yeah, I mean it's all we're starting again, if you like. The conditions are now drier than they were this morning, so it's like two separate race meetings, if you like.
Is that one of the attractions of the sport? It is so intense.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there are lots of attractions to the sport. That's one of them, really. I mean, you have to really wind yourself up, really concentrate hard for 30 seconds of intense concentration, and then you wind down again, and then you have another go. So we'll do it 4 times like that today.
Yeah, I mean, you must be amazingly focused into what it is you're doing.
I think that's very true, and maybe that's why you see some older guys in it, you know, a bit of grey hair here and there. Because you need to be able to focus really, really hard and concentrate and just think what you're going to do. I go up the hill probably 10 times in my head before I actually go up it in the car.
Well, you've got another run coming up this afternoon, so we'll let you get back to it.
Okay, thanks very much.
Pretty good go ahead. 98 miles an hour at approach speed.
Well, in common with most of the people we interview for Madder Maxx, you will have realised that David is a very nice guy. He's also totally focused and absolutely dedicated to his sport. And he also happens to be very, very good at it, which certainly helps. But I can't help wondering what it'd be like if you sat him on the start line at Centre Pod. Because if you're going to go from point A to point B as quickly as possible, surely the best place to do it is there. But somehow, I don't think he'd agree with me. Coming up next week, Sarah will be looking at the high-speed world of 250 international kart racing. We'll be meeting up with some JCB racers, and I'll be back at the ovals with some of those rebel racers. I'm Dougie Brimson, and you've been watching Madder Maxx.